do you ever look ahead in a character and say, man, this would be huge? Or something?
No, I mean, at the time, it was almost too good to be true. There aren't a lot of musical movies being made these days, and so when that one came along, and it was even an option for me to audition for, I was just thrilled. But yeah, no, we honestly had no idea that it would take off like it did. So it's been amazing.
Well, this question is for any of you. Along those lines, there are a lot of musicals being made today, and kids now are growing up in a time, not like my mom, when musicals were being made all the time. So why does it work? What's the deal? I mean, it just seems like sort of it wouldn't fit, but it does.
Can I just say one thing that they comment here? What Kenny's been able to do, and why Kenny sort of brought back the musical for kids, is what kids rejected in musicals. They saw when there was a scene, music video. What Kenny Ortega has been able to do, and one of his great gifts, is his musical numbers are storied. He tells stories with his musical numbers, and that changes the game, and that's why Kenny is where he is, and I think that's a huge reason why high school musicals have been embraced by kids, because they watch a story, and oh my gosh, the singing and dancing.
And the fact that music is so universal, anytime you have a song, it's somebody's heart being imprinted onto a track or a piece of music, and I think when kids hear that, or when anybody hears that, it really connects to them. And that's what I think. It's just the connection with the movie and the characters that really it makes these kids feel that they're a part of it, and they enjoy it, and they want to be a part of it. They want to live it, and they just want more of it. So I think that of all the things, the music really speaks out to everybody.
I think every once in a while, something can work on many different levels. I think High School Musical, in my travels, I've come to discover, whether it be an orphanage in Africa, where a 15-year-old girl says to you, "Thank you, you've given me back my hope," to where you meet a child that says, "I love Sharkay, I like what she wears," to "I like who they are, I like what they do, I like what they sing, I like what they do." But this works on many different levels, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to accomplish. And I think it's because there is something underneath all of this. There's something underneath Peter's words, underneath the music, underneath the lyrics, underneath the dancing, that lives underneath these characters that these guys bring to this movie that makes this work on so many different levels.
Kenny, Gene Kelly was your mentor.
Yeah.
What are you sort of channeling from him that you remember from being trained by him that you want to play in these movies?
So many things. And every once in a while, I feel like, his presence in the room with me, and I get a little smile and a little attaboy. When you're designing a movie, you have to design the movie for the time and the budget and that you have to work with. And, if I would say one great thing that I learned from Gene Kelly was, how to design choreography for the camera versus designing choreography for the stage. And also, Gene used to always say there should be a raison d'etre, a reason for being. What is at the center of everything? And instead of just getting out there and just creating dance for dance sake or movement for movement's sake, what are you trying to say? Start there and then design, then build, then choreograph. And so that's been a lot of fun for me. It's something that Gene gave to me that I implement into my everyday work.
Zach, I'm not with an actual choir, but I'm just wondering if you and Vanessa are dating, just buddies.
Can't talk about the movie.
We talked about all the talent from the area. There's a young man named David Archuleta who's from this area. Any talks with bringing him on board?
He's so talented. What an amazing kid. Charisma, talent, just charming as can be. What a fantastic kid. Really.
He fit in good on that?
He's fitting in good and doing what he's doing right now. I don't know, and he's got the world in his hand, I'm rooting for him. I think he's stupendous.
Peter, what's the process like going writing for this? You write a screenplay, that's one thing, but going from screenplay, from dialogue to now you start singing and dancing, what's the process like?
Well, the process, because Kenny and I, this is the third movie we've done together. At this point, Kenny and I pretty much have a lot of shorthand, and I don't know writing and what Kenny's writing, and all the time. And I think it really, what Kenny as a director is very cognizant of, and again, because the dance numbers are so spectacular, people are talking about Kenny's dance ability, but they wouldn't be interested in the dance numbers if Kenny didn't know how to tell a story. And Kenny knows how, and that's where he begins, is saying, like he just said, what's the story? And I think that's the secret. If there are young directors or choreographers out there, Kenny doesn't start out saying, I want this scene, I want a big dance scene. He's saying, okay, what's this about? And then he works backwards and puts dance into it. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but we see the movie, and Bill and Barry, when they began this whole thing, they really saw how can we use music to be a part of the story. We all come from musical backgrounds. I started out covering rock and roll in San Francisco. Kenny was in a rock and roll band called the Tubes. So we start from music as a storytelling place and go from there. Sometimes people ask me that, and I got my first lesson in that from Janis Joplin, who I knew when I was a kid. And one day she asked me to give her a ride. And so we drove, I said, we were in San Francisco, and I thought she was going to say back to my hotel. She said, I need to go to LA. And so I said, all right. But on the way, she had a big bag of 8-track tapes, and every time her mood changed, she'd slap in a new tape of a different band. And I go, wow, she's like telling the story of her life through music. 30 years later, we start doing High School Musical. I thought about Janis Joplin. I said, let's think of the movie in terms of a playlist. Let's think of the story in terms of a playlist. And I think Kenny and I connect on that level.
Okay, last question, and we go to the state song.
I'm not giving away this.
Can I just say that we have an incredible team of composers and lyricists that are working with us again for the third time, who have developed an incredible soundtrack for this motion picture that we're all extremely excited about. Steve Vincent and Mitch Lee from Disney Studios have been our supervisors and overseers.